Welcome to South Central Kitchen, a South Central College and KTV production. I'm Chef Michael Broughton, and along with myself and my awesome culinary students, today we're going to be taking you through 3 different courses, and we're going to be featuring pumpkin. The first course we're going to be doing today is, all of our courses we're doing today is with pumpkin. And it's the harvest, season. We have beautiful pumpkins and gourds and squashes. And so I've come up with some recipes that I think that would really work well that you could make at home. And the first dish that we're going to be making is it's a vegetarian dish. It's a hearty dish for the fall, for the winter. And we're going to be featuring some different types of beans and some squash and pumpkin, I should say, and some kale, which is a super healthy nutritional food. You get a lot of nutrients from. Today I have Danielle's going to be helping me, which is a first-year student at South Central here, and also Ben, which is also a first-year student here. First of all, we're going to get the soup started. So first thing you're going to want to do is just going to get your pan hot, okay? And you can I'm using an extra virgin olive oil, and I really like that to cook with because it's a little bit more healthy. So we're going to put some of our oil in the pan, and then we're going to start with our tomatoes. Nice. Okay. And we're going to put our chopped tomato, which is a tomato concasse, or you could use a canned tomato if you wanted to. A little bit of onion. And then we have some pumpkin, and I have pumpkin 2 ways. I have a pumpkin puree, and I have also fresh pumpkin that I've steamed halfway. And I'm going to add that into here. Now, if you had squash, maybe butternut squash, you could use that. Thank you. I have some pureed pumpkin we're going to add to this dish. And then I have 3 different beans, and you can use any beans that you want, and that's based on maybe what you have or your favorite beans. And these are all cooked. I definitely recommend soaking and cooking your beans instead of buying your beans already cooked, but you could do either or. I have a flageolet bean that we're going to add to this, which is a French legume. We'll add that. And all the recipes today that I'm going to be showing you are going to be on our website. And this is a scarlet runner bean, a red scarlet bean. And then I have just our good old traditional northern bean that we're going to add to this. Add about a half cup each. And so as Ben is starting to make that happy, we're going to put in a little bit of oregano into here. And I have some chili powder. Now, if you like it a little bit, I'd say a little bit spicier, you maybe want to use a hotter chili powder. This one is about a medium one. And then I have some cumin that we're going to add into here. And then we can just add a little bit of salt at this time. And I like to use kosher salt, and then maybe a little bit of fresh pepper into that. I like to use fresh pepper when I cook because the oils are released right away after you grind it, and it's a more intense flavor. So we're letting that cool a little bit, and then we're going to add a little bit of, I'm using vegetable stock today, and that way we can keep it vegetarian. You can make your own vegetable stock, which we actually did this, and actually Danielle made this today, or this week we made this in school. And tell us, Danielle, a little bit about the process of how we did that.
Well, when you're making vegetable stock, what you want to do is you want to first gather all of your ingredients, and with the vegetable stock, there is a group of vegetables lumped together. It's diced carrots, diced celery, and diced onions. And we call that mirepoix, which is a French term. And when we do that, we put it in a pan that we have heated up using vegetable oil typically, or we like to use olive oil as well for a healthier substitute. When we do that, we throw the vegetables in to get the flavor released. And when we're doing that, what we're doing is called sweating the vegetables. While we're doing that, we want to make sure we don't get any unnecessary color on them from browning it or anything like that.
And you could also probably add, if you had some other root vegetables, or maybe you had some other herbs in your garden, you could do that too.
If you want a more neutral color, you can use parsnips instead of the carrots. You could also add in turnips or rutabaga, or any other vegetable really would work perfectly for it. And once you've done that, you want to add in about 4 quarts of water, usually, to get a good amount. So that way you just want to let it soak, and it should take you about 45 minutes to an hour to have your vegetable stock ready. And it's excellent for any kind of soup.
So, what we do here at South Central is I teach the students classic fundamentals and of cooking. And anytime that you can make your own stock, you actually know what goes into it, and it's a cleaner food. So now this is cooking, and we're going to add our kale into here. That's beautiful. And this kale, a lot of people buy it, some people don't like kale, but I find when you put it in something, it brings out the flavor. And we're going to put some edamame beans in it. We're going to stir that, and we're going to just let this reduce for about 20 minutes to a half hour, and we're going to cook this really slow. All right, now you can see this has been reducing and cooking it slow, simmering on a low boil, our little bubbles coming up for about 30 minutes. And it's beautiful, bright colors have come out. And we just want to, at this point, I always like to taste to see if I need to readjust the seasoning. And I think that could use just a little bit of salt and pepper. A little kosher salt, fresh cracked pepper. And then Danielle, Ben, why don't you guys give that a try and see if we've reached the consistency for our flavor.
I'd say that's exactly where it needs to be.
Perfect. Good job, guys. So now you can see this this soup is really more, it's like almost like a stew. It's so thick and it's so hearty. And a couple things that you can do with this for garnish. We took some of the pumpkin seeds and we toasted that ourselves. And I also have some baby little greens and herbs that are picked just as they're sprouted. And so to plate this up, I like to use a large bowl, and it really makes a nice presentation. So we have our soup, and we're just going to take some of these greens. And the thing about this is they're all little different types of lettuces and herbs, and it gives it a really nice look to it, and also a nice flavor to that. We're going to take some of our pumpkin seeds, toss that around there for a little crunch factor. And so today I give you the pumpkin and bean stew or soup.
Take your food service skills to new heights by enrolling in the Culinary Arts program at South Central College. Find out more at southcentral.edu/culinary.
All right, our next course I'm going to be making, and I have 2 students that are going to be assisting me. Miguel, who is a first-year student, and Olivier, who is a first-year student also at South Central College. And we're going to be making a classic pork tenderloin with a classic French sauce, which is chasseur. And the first thing I want to do is we're going to serve it with some butternut squash. And I think the simplest way and maybe just the easiest way is to just do it in its more most purest natural form it is. And I'm going to show you a little trick how I like to do butternut squash. And the first thing you want to do is, I just like to peel it ahead of time. And if you cut that in half, and take a knife and you just peel that squash, you cut the skin off only. And if you use a peeler, it's probably not going to work. So I just make sure I keep your hands away from that blade, because you can't cut yourself, can you, if your hands aren't by the blade?
Yeah.
So why did you pick South Central College? What was one of the reasons that got you here?
I found many people stating that South Central College is the best culinary program here down in southern Minnesota, and so far it's been the best. I've had the best time.
And so far since you've been here a student. This is the first semester into the culinary rotation.
Yes, that's correct.
And you've done some of your general eds.
Yes.
Tell me so far your experience or what you've liked about some of the schooling.
You get a well-rounded experience in classes. You meet so many new people every day, and you find things that you didn't know you would like.
Try a lot of different
new
foods.
foods. Yeah, classes, all the same. You're trying something new.
Perfect, thank you. I've peeled this squash, I've taken the seed out of the squash, and now all you have to do is just dice the squash. And you dice the squash. I like about a medium dice on this, and you can just throw this in, and I have my squash diced. And we want to get this going right away, because if you could just put that extra squash on here, please. We're going to take our butternut squash, and I have the exact recipes posted on our website. I like to add a little bit of turmeric to my squash, and it really brings out a really nice golden color. And since it's the fall and winter time, we had some fresh sage in our garden, and squash and sage go really well. And then I'm just going to season this with some kosher salt, and then some fresh cracked black pepper. And then, so I'm roasting the vegetable, and I'm trying to keep it healthy. I'm going to use some olive oil. I use an extra virgin olive oil, drizzle that on. And then all we're going to do is we're going to shake that. You can stir it with a spoon. And that is beautiful. Here we have our squash. And all we're going to do is we're just going to put this on a sheet pan. And we're going to stick this in our oven for about a half hour at about 350 degrees. And the next thing we're going to do is I am going to show you how we do a pork tenderloin. And you can buy a pork tenderloin in the grocery store. They come about 1.5 pound pieces. And tell us the first thing you want to do when you clean up pork tenderloin.
I want to remove the excess fat and the shiny.
Which is called silver skin.
Silver skin.
And so we're gonna remove that, and we're gonna get our fire started. So we're just gonna take a knife and we're just gonna scrape that. You can roast it whole if you wanted, but since we're gonna make this whole dish in a pan, we're gonna want to pound scallopini out of that, or take your meat after you cut some medallions. And so she is cleaning that. The silver skin on here will have a tendency to be a little bit more tough, and you really want to get that out of there. So as she's cleaning that,
you got that silver skin, why don't you cut a few medallions off of there? I like to go about a 1/2 inch of medallions. And beautiful, you can cut 3 of them. And then what we're going to do is we're just going to line those up like this. I got that. And then we can put this back in here. I'm just going to take a little bit of plastic over this, and I'm going to pound this down. Give it a little tap. All right, and you can put that in back, please. I have a little bit of flour here that I have some salt and pepper in. We're going to just take this in the flour. And the reason why I like to do this, it really helps get a nice, beautiful golden crust with that. And so we have our pork medallions. And then we're going to take in our pan, in our saute pan, our skillet saute pan, some olive oil. We're going to get that hot. And you can bring up, go right ahead.
Thank you.
And we're just going to put this in our pan, hot pan, and we're going to saute this until it gets golden brown. And then in the pan, we're going to be making our sauce, which is, we have some diced onion, some fresh tomatoes that we've peeled and seeded. We have some mushrooms. We have some fresh thyme. We have some fresh tarragon, a little parsley, a little garlic. We have also some butter. We have some veal stock that we're going to be using, and we have some white wine. So as this is cooking, we're going to get this nice and seared. And as soon as we flip this over, we're going to add some more of our ingredients in, and we're going to make our sauce. But we can add a few of our onions right now. We can add a few of our mushrooms into here. Beautiful. And we can add a little bit of our garlic. Here you go. We'll add some of our fresh herbs. And I really recommend, if you have rosemary, thyme, sage, anything in your garden or in your cupboard, it'll work. Okay. And then, as this is cooking, we'll add our tomatoes in at this point. And we want to take a little bit of white wine. We'll saute that around in there. We're going to turn that over. Why don't you just turn that over? So what we're going to do is, after that turns over, and we've deglaze the bottom of that, we're going to add a little bit of veal stock. And the veal stock we made here in school in our stock class. If you don't have any at home, maybe just a little bit of beef broth. We're going to let that simmer a few minutes. We're going to go check on our squash that's in the oven, and we're going to put this plate together. All right, as you can see, this has been reducing for a few minutes now. And the sauce is starting to thicken up. I'm going to add one of my favorites, a little bit of butter into there, just to finish that. And then we're going to add a little bit of chopped parsley. And if you could get the, check on the squash in the oven for me, please. Your squash is done basically when it's golden brown, and you can take a fork to it, and it is fork tender. Beautiful. That looks beautiful. So see how this is nice and golden brown, and the natural sugars start to caramelize on that squash. So now we have this pork and the butter, and that looks beautiful. This is very classic French, and it's a classic French dish. And so we're going to just take this pork, put this onto the plate like this, and we can take a spoon and ladle the sauce onto here. And then we can take some of the butternut squash
And you can plate it however you want. You want to be creative, fancy, and maybe just a little bit of more parsley there, like that. And there you go, thank you. I give you, this is our pork tenderloin with a classic chasseur sauce and our roasted butternut squash.
Get in on the action. Prepare for an exciting career in film, photography, animation, and graphics at South Central College. Find out more at southcentral.edu/multimedia.
And for our final dish, there's nothing better than in the wintertime or fall is to have your classic bread pudding. And today, I have Emily and Damien as our first year students here at South Central, and they're going to be helping me make this dish. And we're going to be featuring our pumpkin, and it's going to be actually a pumpkin bread pudding with a bourbon sauce to go with that. So one of the things Emily's going to do is we're going to you can take any type of bread. We have some French bread that's a couple days old, and we're just going to dice that. I think crusty breads work really, really good for that. So, yep, and then we're going to just dice that into some pieces. Beautiful. I like to, if I ever have pieces of bread at home, maybe I'll stick them in the freezer, and then when I get a batch of bread, I can easily turn it into some bread pudding. So we have some of the bread dice, and you can just pop that into the bowl. And so there's a 101 basic, you did a really good job with that, of just how to dice some bread. Any crusty bread will work for this dish. Thank you. And Sarah is going to be coming up and helping me, and we're going to make the base for this bread pudding. Sarah is a first-year student here at South Central, and she's been doing an awesome job. And so the first thing we're going to do is we have in this recipe, we have some heavy cream along with some milk. And I do have everything, the recipes are on our website. So we're going to just take that, and then we're going to add some sugar to this. Oops, a little sugar. We're going to add some egg into this. And she'll start just to whip that. You want to break that egg up. And then I already have a puree of pumpkin. We're going to add that pumpkin into here. Now, if you didn't have pumpkin, if you had some butternut squash, that would work well also. And then our seasonings, we have a little bit of a nutmeg. We have a little bit of cinnamon, some allspice, pinch of salt. Some people might add raisins. You could do that at this point if you wanted to. But the next thing that we're going to do is we are going to add our bread into here, along with one of my favorites, and it's really a fun way to jazz this up, are some ground up ginger snap cookies. And so the key to this is you want to be able to let this soak. If you have some time, 10 minutes to soak. And what Sarah is doing is she's mashing that up, and she's getting that so the liquid penetrates through the bread, so you have a really nice, moist bread pudding. And you can put it in any type of a serving dish that you want to bake it in. And I have these fun little dishes that we are going to we're going to fill up. Beautiful. You can take your gloves off, and then
we're just going to fill these. I like to get equal amounts of the bread along with the liquid ingredients. Oh, that looks good. You can go ahead and finish those. And then for each one more thing that makes it a little bit more heavenly is to take a little butter. I put a little bit of butter on top of these. And you want to bake this, and I have this in a water bath. And I put some water in the pan, and the reason why I do that is so when you're cooking with the egg in there, it cooks evenly and it's not too hot of a temperature. And then I have my preheated oven at about 350 degrees. And we're going to bake this for, I got my covers here. We're going to bake this. We're going to put these covers on, little lids, kind of cute. We're going to pop this in our 350 degree oven for about 30 minutes. And we already, I have some baked off, so once they come out of the oven, I do have some already baked. What we're going to do is we're going to make our bourbon sauce next. And Damien is going to assist me with that. We are going to start, and if you notice, I've cooked with butter in quite a few of my recipes. I always say come fall season, come the winter season, I tend to maybe cook a little bit more heavier. So I have my butter in there. I have my brown sugar. And what we're going to do is we're just going to start to cook that, and we're going to caramelize the brown sugar and start to make a syrup with that butter. I have my bread puddings. So as this is cooking, we're going to add our cream to that. Just melt that together. Beautiful. I'm also going to add a pinch of salt, kosher salt, because there's nothing better to have that caramely, salty taste to that. Just a pinch. And I'm also going to add just a little bit of vanilla into that, just a pinch of vanilla. Beautiful, and see how that is starting to caramelize, thicken up. I have a little bit of bourbon, so if you want to add a little alcohol to that, you can. And that's so I just do it right at the end. About a shot of bourbon. Look at that. That looks awesome. So there you go. Your sauce is done. And you can be as creative as you want when you plate it. And what we're going to do is I had this just come out of the oven. It's a little warm still. And so, ooh, look at that. And we have our sauce. Put that here. Looks great. So this is our bourbon caramel sauce. And I'm just going to put a little extra sauce right here. I'm going to drizzle the top with that. Ooh, that looks great. And then, that is our final pumpkin dish of the day. It's a pumpkin bread pudding with a bourbon caramel sauce.
Find your future at South Central College, where excellence and affordability add up to real educational value. Find out more at southcentral.edu.